Live from Columbus, Ohio, it's Motown Downtown!
Motown Downtown, come on down to Motown Downtown.
Today's guest, Dave Fennoy.
Come on down to Motown Downtown.
My name is Tyson Bruno, and here's your host, Mo Chocolate.
Come on down to Motown Downtown.
What is up, boys and girls? How's it going? This is Mo Chocolate, and welcome back to another episode of Motown Downtown, where we are here to make sure that you have a wonderful time and the greatest time. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very special guest in the house tonight. Drum roll, please. We have our very first professional voice actor on the show. A voice actor who's been in the business since the early 90s. You can hear his voice in shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, King Possible, Ben 10, and video games like Mortal Kombat, Metal Gear Solid, Bayonetta, Marvel Spider-Man, and my personal favorite, Lee Everett from The Walking Dead. Put your hands together for the one and only Dave Fennoy!
Well, hello there. How you doing?
What is up, Dave?
Well, clearly you.
It is such an honor to be in your presence, buddy. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. We're all big fans of you. We love your work. We love you as a person. Thank you so very much for coming on to the show. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. You know, it was a nice Friday afternoon, had nothing better to do, and now I do.
So for those in the audience who don't know who you are, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, my name is Dave Fennoy, and I am a voice actor, and you have probably heard me on something. Someone said about me, well, if you have been living in the United States and you haven't heard Dave Fennoy's voice, you aren't paying attention. And I do some of everything: TV promos, commercials, narrations, and cartoons. But what most people know me for are video games. Of course, I would be negligent if I didn't mention that for its first 8 years, I was the voice of Hulu. Anytime you went on Hulu, you heard me. The following program is brought to you with limited interruption by insert advertiser here.
Yes, I it's funny because, yeah, I remember back when I was watching Hulu and watching Family Guy and stuff, I always remember, wait, is that Dave I'm hearing? Small world.
It was me.
Yeah,
It
so
was me.
fantastic job with that. So my first question for you is, tell us about your early years as a voice actor. How different was it back in those days when you first started compared to nowadays?
Well, you know what? We didn't really have the internet. I came to Los Angeles in 1990 to start doing voiceover work, and we weren't quite in the digital age then. Still, our demos were on quarter-inch reel-to-reel. There were tape machines. They moved from reel-to-reel to cassettes, and some of you may not have ever even seen a cassette. And then they went from cassettes to DATs, and from DATs to CDs, and now, of course, MP3s. Those were the auditions. Instead of a home studio, you went to your agents to audition, sat in the lobby with the other voice actors, said hello, and my particular agent, they had a celebrity wing, so oftentimes you were seeing famous people walk through. And to go to work, of course, you didn't have a home studio, so you had to go to one of the studios in Los Angeles, which meant a lot of driving. Well, over the years, all of that changed, and especially since the pandemic, for just about a year and a half, I think I was in a studio about 5 times outside of my own home studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it has made the business much more democratic. meaning that it used to be, when I started, you had to be in New York, Chicago, LA, maybe San Francisco, Dallas, Atlanta, Miami, maybe, but those were smaller markets. The real work was being done in, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and especially Los Angeles for some of everything. We had TV promos, narration, commercial, cartoons, and at that point in 1990, video games were not a thing. I mean, there were video games out there,
Yeah.
but there weren't video games like there are now with all the narrative stories that are being told. We had Asteroids and Pong, and we were beginning to get some of the games with storytelling. But if you go back and look at some of the games that came out in the early 90s, and you pay attention to the acting, ooh, really bad. Really bad.
Pretty much,
You know,
yeah.
a lot of the game developers were doing the voice work themselves. And if they wrote a story where, they had an old guy, somebody, hey, your dad's retired, right? Can you get him in here? We just need an old guy. Or, on lunch break, hey, get the secretary in here. We need a woman. Well, as games got better, they added better actors, and the stories have gotten better. And the video game industry now, it's the biggest entertainment industry in the entertainment business. More money than movies and music combined.
Wow. Amazing. So it's like when you what would you say was like the spark that made you decide to pursue that career as a voice actor?
Well, it's funny. I'd been an actor as a child and also a musician. I went to college as a theater major, and but I was also playing music, so I dropped out and went on the road as a musician, toured around for a while, and I decided, well, I better go back and get my degree. So I went to Howard University in the jazz studies department. Got married, had a kid while I was there, had a band in D.C., but my wife got accepted into the PhD program at UC Berkeley. So she and I and our 6-month-old child moved to Berkeley, and I didn't really find a band to get going there. And I started to think, well, if I'm going to stay close to music, maybe radio. People keep telling me I have a great voice.
You do.
So I started knocking on the radio doors and found an opening. And for the 10 years between 1980 and 1990, I was if I can say the word, successful a radio personality in the San Francisco Bay Area, working under the name Billy David Ocean. It was not one of my proudest moments. But I did mornings at KDIA and KSOL. I was, one of those crazy morning jocks and got to do a lot of voices. Like I had a entertainment reporter, Lance Swisher. Hello, Billy. I'm Lance Swisher. Oh, you won't believe what's happening in the movies. And I had a private eye, or I called him a private dick, and a Harry O'Banion, private dick. And we had little stories about the cases that he was solved. He was an idiot, but somehow he always solved the cases. And lots of other fun things as a morning man on KSOL and KDIA. KDIA, the boss of the Bay.
Nice.
More KSOL.
So, did you have like a backup plan also in the rare chance that voice acting would not pan out so well?
No. You know what? I really don't believe in backup plans. If you're going to jump in, jump in. My mom used to tell me that, well, son, you should be a school teacher. Get your teaching credential just in case all this entertainment stuff that you want to do doesn't work out. And I always thought, no, Mom, I am not going to be teaching nothing because you got to grade papers at night and come up with plans, study plans, and so forth. And of course, now, along with being a voice actor, I do a lot of teaching of voice acting, and I absolutely love it.
Nice.
But it wasn't a backup plan. I was doing radio. I was really committed to it. But early in my radio career, as a matter of fact, even before I was on air, like in my first year, I was writing commercials for a station, and every radio station, they're going to have, a lot of the national commercials, the McDonald's, the Cokes, the Pepsis, but they're also going to have some local spots, the restaurants in town, the used car dealers, the local stores and whatnot. So I was writing commercials for the sales department for those, and often I would voice them. And one day, as I was arriving at work, the morning guy at the station I was working at was leaving, and he told me about voiceover. I said, "Hey, where are you going, man?" He said, "Well, I'm going over to the city to do some voiceover work." Well, the station was in Berkeley, and I said, "Oh, voiceover work? What's that?" And he goes, "Well, voicing commercials and TV promos and cartoons and stuff." He said, "I make more money doing that than I do on the radio." And a little light bulb went on.
Nice.
He told me, you're going to have to get a demo, and send it around to people and get an agent, and then you can start working. Well, I was early in my radio career, and I was still committed to that. But his words never left me. So it was about 5 years before I actually did anything. But ultimately, I got my first agent in San Francisco and started working. There's a place there, Marine World Africa USA. I was doing all their concert promos, a few other things. They had an award for one commercial I did for Marine World Africa USA. The Golden Prawn Award. Never did pick up the hardware though. It's probably in a storage someplace
somewhere out there. Yeah.
But But after a number of years, when I first started, I wasn't getting a lot of work, and I took some lessons. And one of the workshops I took was with a woman named Samantha Paris up there. She has a voiceover school called Voice Track San Francisco. And she brought up her agent from Los Angeles, Lee Gilbert. And after this weekend workshop where she touched on a lot of different aspects of voiceover, commercial, TV promo, cartoons, narration, she said, at the end of it, she said, you're pretty talented. If you ever want to come to Los Angeles, we'd love to represent you at SBV. Well, at the time, I was the morning jock on the number one station in town, KSOL. So my reaction was kind of, oh, well, hey, that's great. I think I'll do that one day. But right now I'm busy being the king of town. King of San Francisco, morning man on the number one station in town, KSOL.
Nice. That's amazing, man. Well, if your friend is still out there who gave you that first spark, massive thank you to you for paving the way for this legend to come into our lives. Thank you.
And she still is out there, and every now and then drop her a little note and say hello.
Nice.
But she gave me her card. And I tucked it away. I figured, well, some years down the line, I'll go down there, because my plan was, as soon as I'm making as much money in voiceover as I am in radio, I'll drop radio and do it full time. Well, radio is a funny business. There's an old saying: if you haven't been fired, you haven't really been in radio. And I had been fired once or twice at a station or two, but February 9th, 1990. As I ended my shift, I was called into the general manager's office and let go. Not a very good severance package. Apparently, they had hired a new consultant who decided all the jocks on the station had to go. He was going to bring in his own people. And I had to go find that card. Oh God, I know I have this card someplace. Where is it? Oh my God. And I found it, and I gave her a call, and I said, Lee Gilbert, were you serious when you said come on down and you guys would represent me? She said, sure. Put together a new demo and come on down. Well, it took me a month or so to get the demo together. But I came on down, and for the first almost year, I was commuting back and forth between my house in Berkeley and a few different places in LA. The first place I stayed was with an aunt and uncle, my mother's brother, older brother, and his wife. Stayed with them for a while, actually a month before they said, "That's enough, goodbye." Then I stayed with a high school buddy of mine and stayed there for about a month. And then another guy from San Francisco, Joe Paulino, who's still doing voiceover work, decided he was going to try to move to LA too. And so we rented a 2-bedroom apartment together. And every week I was driving back and forth between San Francisco and Los Angeles. I would take that 5.5, 6-hour drive on a Sunday night or Monday morning and drive back on a Friday night or Saturday morning, spend the weekend with the family, then do it again. And after it was about 9 or 10 months, I was able to move my family down. We bought a little house in Pasadena.
Nice.
And started doing a lot of work. I was doing promos for ABC, CBS, NBC, the WB, SoapNet, and a lot of piece. Oh, I was one of the voices of the Disney Channel. Doing a lot of piece work, and started doing some cartoons as well. I was on Captain Planet. I was on Rugrats. I was Dick Scott in the New Kids on the Block cartoon series, which was funny because as a disc jockey, I hated New Kids on the Block. This is just a put-together band. They aren't real musicians. Some producer put them together. I have a different perspective on that now, but at the time it was like, okay, I'm playing their manager, Dick Scott, in the cartoon. But, having a good time. And at that point, video games weren't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing some video games in the 90s, but they were few and far between. And I just looked at it as another form of animation. But within 10 years or so, the world had changed.
Oh, yes, it quite certainly has. So my next question is, I want to know about your very first role, like when you auditioned for a role as a voice actor and you got hired. Well, what was it like? Like, wow, this actually might work out. I'm going to be a voice actor now. Like, what was it like your very first, like, yes, we will hire you? What was that like for you?
The first things were up in San Francisco. My first gig was for the California Lottery.
Oh.
And it was right when the California Lottery came out. It was in the early 90s, and I auditioned, booked it. This was within the first month of my being represented, and booked it. And but I was also doing some other things. Shortly after that, I got the Marine World Africa USA contract. But I did do some things that, not union, not highly paid, but fun. Now this is back in the day when they had the 976 numbers. Yeah, you young whippersnappers know nothing about that, but back in the day, before the internet took over, a person could call a number on the phone and get entertainment on the phone for $1 or $2 a minute. So there was a company called Megaphone. And the first job I had for them was every Wednesday, and, it was a completely different world. The California Lottery would happen. And the numbers would be announced. The winning numbers would be announced on television at, I forget what time it was. It might have been 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever. I think it was 7 o'clock. As the balls rolled out, there was a little TV show that lasted whatever the 10, 15 minutes it took. And I was living in Berkeley, had to get across the bay to their studios, and I would watch and then record a phone message of what the winning numbers were. Hello, everybody. Hi, we're here at Megaphone, and the lottery winning numbers tonight are... and people would dial up that number and pay a dollar or two to get the winning numbers. They also had a kind of a sexy line where I was a sexy voice that was telling a story to women, and the story was always we met. There was some danger that this woman was in, and somehow I would always save her, and then we'd end up in bed. Soft porn for the ladies, and but they also had the Michael Jackson and Prince hotlines. Michael Jackson and Prince were killing it.
Yes.
This is in the back half of the '80s. So I was the voice of those, giving every week news about Michael Jackson and Prince. So those were some of my first jobs. And when I came to Los Angeles, fairly quickly, I started getting regular work. I became one of the voices of the Disney Channel. I was doing the soap operas, As the World Turns and Guiding Light, their promos for CBS. And a bunch of other little incidentals, some of the cartoons. And at one point, later on in the 90s, I started doing some video games. Oh, you know what? The first video game I did was also a phone thing.
Okay.
I was RoboCop on the RoboCop game. That once again, somebody would pick up the phone, they dial a number, they're paying whatever it was per minute, and they would push the button for prompts to play the game and do whatever it was they were going to do.
That is wow. So when you were voicing on the Disney Channel, were you the one person that was saying next time, stay tuned for our next episode of such and such?
You know, I was low key on the Disney Channel for the most part. Interesting. The first job I had on the Disney Channel, when they first brought me in, I was doing a Darth Vader imitation or James Earl Jones imitation. And Luke, you are my son. And they handed me a big coffee bowl, that you pour coffee with. And they said, okay, put that under your lip and now talk. And
Whoa.
it gave you that kind of hollow, echoey sound that Darth Vader had. It was kind of cool. So, that's how they did that. But now, what was the rest of that question?
Yeah, basically was were you the one that said stay tuned for more episodes from this Disney Channel TV show?
You know what? Not so much. I did some of that, but at that point, Disney was looking at being a family channel as opposed to just for kids, which, I was going to say they are now, but now it's Disney Plus, Snap, It's a whole other thing. But they went from, at this point, they had kid shows, but they also had shows for adults. And I was one of the narrators who would talk about our national parks. And I would narrate, what's one of the national parks? Name one.
Yellowstone?
Yellowstone National Park. It's a beautiful place where wonderful things happen. Don't get eaten by a bear. I was narrating those and some other things. They had broken us up into a few different voices. The main voice was a guy named Jerry Bishop, who could have been really... He could have not welcomed me. He could have thought of me as competition, but he welcomed me to the family. He's no longer with us, but I will always cherish the welcome of Jerry Bishop. He was just one hell of a gentleman and great voice. And then they had kids programming as well, and a buddy of mine, O.G. Banks, was doing that, and a few other people too. But I was viewed as an adult voice. A deep, rich announcer, narrator, storyteller.
Wow, so I'm pretty sure when I was watching the show as a kid, I heard your voice also. And lo and behold, all these years later, here we are. Isn't it amazing how things worked out, Dave?
It is.
So my next question is, when you audition for a show, like let's say your people bring this show or game or movie to your attention, what do you look for in a character when you want to audition for that character?
Well, it's a little funny. You're not quite as bad as my mom used to be. She'd watch a TV show and go, "Oh, son, that show, you'd be perfect on that. Why don't you call them up and get a job on it?" But we, as voice actors and actors in general, especially early in your career, you audition for things. You're not going, "Oh, yes, I'm going to do that, and I won't do that." No, I'm in a position now where I can and sometimes do turn down certain things, but especially early in your career, and I think truthfully through your career, you are auditioning. I audition every day. Sometimes people are, "Wow, you still audition?" Yeah, I audition. Of course, I audition. Um, so projects come your way, and if you've got a good agent, they have a good idea of what your range is. What are the projects that would be right for you? So, and I felt like my agent did have that. So I would get auditions that kind of fit uh, my voice, the kinds of things that I could do with my voice, the kind of characters that I could play, which is what you wanted an agent. If you're, 25, you don't want them sending you, you're a 25-year-old guy, you don't want them sending you scripts for a 75-year-old woman. That's the extreme case, but you understand what I mean. So I was winning jobs by auditioning.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good to know. Okay, and my next question is, when it comes to animated shows and video games, is there a difference in like working for either or, and do you prefer working on games or anime shows more, or just
Well, I love both. The video game world loves me more than the animation world, but the animation world, we date from time to time. Uh, and yeah, there is kind of a difference. Video game world, not to say that there isn't comedy in video games, but video games tend to lean towards drama. And cartoons tend to lean towards comedy. These are rules of thumb. Of thumb. There are always going to be exceptions. So most of the cartoons that I started doing, well, outside of Dick Scott, manager of New Kids on the Block, I was in a lot of cartoons that were adventure cartoons. And then as the video game started, I just thought of them as another form of animation. But most of the video games that I started doing, I was playing adventure characters. I was Lando Calrissian in a couple of video games for Lucas Games. Also, I played Troy Dampner in their Pod Racer games. Matter of fact, I played 3 different characters in that Pod Racer game, which was all done in Huttese, the language of Jabba the Hutt. And what amazed me most about that gig was when I went into the studio, the director spoke Huttese. Yeah. The director spoke Huttese, so I had a script with what was said in Huttese on one side and what it meant in English on the other side, and the director, of course, could tell me all the pronunciations. But the whole thing was shouted because the whole thing is happening during this race of pod racers. So the first 2 hours of this session, I'm shouting in Huttese, and then we finish that 10-minute break. It's okay. We're going to do it again. This time, I want you to do it with a Jamaican accent, man. So next time I'm shouting for about another couple hours in Jamaican, with a Jamaican accent. And got done with that. My voice is getting a little hoarse by this time. You go, "Oh, just one more. But this time, homeboy voice. What's up? We gonna do that thing." And at the end of the session, I lost my voice.
Oh no!
And I was supposed to be an announcer for a sports award show later on in the week, but I'd lost my voice. I had to call my agent. She had to cancel for me. And that producer has never, ever hired me again.
Oh, no. All because of that Jamaican. All because of Jamaican and dude bro
That's
voice.
outing and not tease.
Yeah, man. That's well. Do you? So it's like when that because it's funny you mentioned that because that's my next question is what gig gave you the most strain on your voice and you just answered that. So
Yeah,
thanks.
that definitely was. I've had some other strenuous gigs, and thankfully, after a very long strike a few years ago, video game companies are looking out for our voices more. I've heard stories of voice actors bleeding from their cords after screaming sessions for 4 or 5 hours. You just shouldn't do it.
Yeah, so the actors on Dragon Ball Z who literally scream in every episode, God bless their vocal cords. Seriously.
I hope they're getting to take some breaks.
So my next question is in the pantheon of cartoon characters that you voice, do you have a favorite?
Oh boy. I'm gonna just include in their cartoon and video games.
Okay.
And on one hand, it's like trying as a parent to name your favorite child. Even if you have one, you don't want to name it because you don't want the kid that you don't like as much to know he's not as liked. Plus, I don't, if you have kids, hopefully you love them all the same. Although your relationship with each of them is going to be different. But I'm going to come back to Lee Everett, the playable character in the Walking Dead game, for a number of reasons. It was a character that was so close to just who I am anyway. And the game won more than 100 Game of the Year awards.
Wow.
I was nominated for Best Performance in a Video Game a number of times.
Nice.
Won the Machinima Award, won what is it? The Machinima and the
Game Awards?
Ice Award.
Okay.
I was nominated for the VGAs, but I did not win. However, Melissa Hutchinson, who played Clementine, did win at that.
Nice.
And we were both nominated for a BAFTA, and for those who don't know, that's the British Academy of Film of Television Arts. That's like the Academy. It's like winning an Oscar. It's like being nominated for an Oscar. And we were flown to London for the ceremony, and got suited and booted. Went to the ceremony, and some English guy won it. But everybody came up to us and said, either one of you would have won this if the both of you hadn't been nominated. It's like, oh, yeah, now you tell me.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Lee, because that's actually my next question is, how did you get involved with The Walking Dead? Did you just audition? Did it come to you? How did that work out?
As usual, it was an audition. Now, it was a little bit different because they had already sent out auditions, of which I didn't get one. They had already hired somebody who did the first episode. And I guess when they listened back to the episode, something about his performance wasn't working for them. So I got an email with, hey, this is a game, The Walking Dead game, just like that TV show. And they're looking for somebody to play this character. It's a playable character, Lee Everett. He was a college professor from the South, but we don't want you to put on a phony Southern accent. He killed his wife and her lover and is on his way to jail when the zombie apocalypse saves him, and he redeems himself by taking care of this little 8-year-old girl. And I auditioned for it. I thought, wow, I like this audition. I like the whole feel of this. A week later, they said, okay, you got it. We're going to start recording, next month. And it was a job where I live in Los Angeles, where most of this stuff happens. But I was going to be flying up to the Bay Area to a little town in Fairfax in Marin County. Little town. The town was probably 4 or 5 blocks long one way and 3 blocks long the other way, but having about 5 or 6 bars where there was live music every night. It was an old hippie town full of musicians and artists and just nice little place. and there was a guy there had a Studio Purim. He is no longer with us. Jory hit on his motorcycle by a truck, and he went into a coma and finally passed. But he recorded every word of season 1 of the Walking Dead game. So they would fly me up for 2 or 3 days, and we would just work for those 3 days. It'd be from 9 to 5. I was staying in a little hotel down the street, the only little hotel they had down the street, motel, I guess it was. And in the first 20 minutes, I remember thinking, wow, this script is really good.
Yes.
I'm really loving the storytelling here. Who wrote this shit? And by the third, we would every 6 weeks or so, I was back up there recording for another episode, and then sometimes coming back to record pickups for episodes. Sometimes there's some rewrites and those kinds of things. And one of the things about video games is you're always working by yourself. In the years I've done, in the about 500 or so games that I've been on, I think I've had 4 sessions that were ensemble. 2 of them were Wallace sessions for World of Warcraft, and 2 of them were ensemble sessions for a game called Masquerada, Songs and Shadows.
Okay.
Because it just the nature of post-production for video games kind of dictates that everybody's working by themselves. But when the game came out, and I'm not a gamer myself. When the game came out, I started looking at the rave reviews that it was getting. And one of the things I noticed that all the rave reviews mentioned how wonderful the acting was, but never mentioned any of the actors' names. So I found out who was writing these articles, and I started, hey, I saw the article. Thanks, I'm glad you like the acting, but I'm the playable character, and the rest of this cast, they're kicking butt. And you need to pay attention to who all these characters are, and they did. They started paying attention to the entire cast, and I think that was a little bit of a change too in how the gaming press approached actors. But it's interesting. I don't think game developers are real interested in the actors in their games becoming stars. I think there's a little bit of, I as the writer, I as the game developer, I want to be recognized as I want to be the guy. But the audience is always going to react to the voice in the story. They're going to react to video game characters that they love, just like they react to television and movie characters that they love.
Yep.
So on one hand, I think there's still an effort by the video game industry not to promote the actors in video games as stars, but nonetheless, the fans want to meet us at conventions. Want to say hello and hold us in high regard, and thank you, fans, for that.
And yeah, everyone out there, thank you very much. And my next question is, to prepare for your role as Lee Everett, did you read any of the comics or watch the TV show?
Well, I was already watching the TV show. It wasn't the number 1 show on my list, but I was watching it. So I had an idea, and I did look at some of the graphic novels, not comics. I did look at some of the graphic novels, and got a real understanding. One of the things I learned about the Walking Dead game is, and this is a little behind the scenes, the Walking Dead are not really the zombies. It's the live people, because sooner or later, they're going to be dead.
Yep.
And that's kind of how it showed up in the TV show. They keep killing off everybody's favorite character.
Pretty much, yeah. R.I.P. Glenn. But yeah, I also want to know, were you surprised by the universal acclaim of season 1? Like, when did it dawn on you, wow, this is pretty big, actually?
Well, when the first episode came out, and it did so well, and uh, all the magazines, all the game press were just high on it. I knew this was something different, but I knew it was something different that first 20 minutes of recording my first time. I just didn't know how good it was going to be. And once you added up how good the scripts were, how good the performances of the entire cast was, the storytelling, it's a different kind of game. Anybody can enjoy the Walking Dead game. It's not a game where your skill is important. It's a game where you have to think about and feel about what choices you want to make.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why I love the game so much, because I was a big fan of the show. I collected the comics, watched the TV shows. When I found out they're making a game, and as the African-American lead, I'm like, yes, sign me up. And then the gameplay was fantastic. Your portrayal was godlike. And yeah, like you said, the writing is just... Because up until that point, 2012, was it?
Yeah, 2012.
Around that time, it was mostly just shooters, just as violent and shooting as possible. So to have a game where the main core is storytelling, character development, and growing attaching to these characters, and for that game to win Game of the Year compared up against games like Mass Effect, that shows to me that there is still an audience that still love storytelling in the games.
Anyway, I play some characters on Mass Effect too.
Nice. It all comes full circle. And so I want to talk to you about Telltale. What's it like working with the fine folks over there?
Well, it was a joy, and I won't say one of the saddest days of my life, but it was a sad day when Telltale suddenly and without notice had to declare bankruptcy and go out of business.
Yeah.
Telltale had been they'd been committed to storytelling since their inception, and they'd only been marginally successful until the Walking Dead game, and then they just blew up. And unfortunately, I think one of the things that can happen sometimes when you have massive success and massive money starts coming in, you can overextend yourself. One of the things I saw was the director who had directed so many Telltale projects and who had directed the entire first season of the Walking Dead game. They got rid of him.
What?
They started using other directors, and I'm not saying these other directors weren't good. What I'm talking about is a mindset that, I'm not going to dance with the people who brung me. Now that I'm here, I'm going to find some other partners. I guess you can be too loyal to somebody who's, you get my brother-in-law, I got to keep working with him but when these are the people that brought you to the dance, stay with the people that brought you to the dance. Don't cast them off for that bright, shiny object over there that may or may not be as committed to what you are. And then they started trying to do things, too many projects at the same time. They tried to do a Game of Thrones. And they wanted to hire the actors from Game of Thrones and spent a lot of money on actors from Game of Thrones. And one of the issues in this business is often name brand actors on film and television. Don't know what acting for video games really is. Don't have a respect for it. And when they get the jobs, excuse me. When they get the jobs, they start phoning it in. They're not giving their all. And I've heard this from director after director after director after director. Whereas we have dozens and dozens and dozens of committed voice actors to the video game industry that have voiced your favorite characters in hundreds of video games. And they are the major players, the major actors, the stars of video games, and often we're getting hired, but in so many ways we're being disrespected. We don't get paid nearly what the television and movie actors get paid, and yet there's never been a movie that made $1 billion in a day. But there have been video games that made $1 billion in a day.
Yes. It's just like I don't get why it's not as respected as it should be when all of the writing's all on the wall, you know?
Well, yeah. Once again, I think the culture of it comes out of high tech industry, and I think the programmers, the developers want the accolades and the money for themselves. And I'm not saying they shouldn't get accolades and money. But respect the actors.
Amen. Respect all the actors, yes. And now, did you ever meet Robert Kirkman in person while working on the game?
Hold on 1 second.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Here we go. Robert Kirkman, everybody.
Rob, you can come out now.
It's there he is. That's awesome. Love that guy.
Yeah, I got to meet Robert Kirkman, and once when Telltale went under, in that surprise, I was talking to Melissa Hutchinson the other day. We were being interviewed together, and she mentioned that she was in studio recording when Telltale went under, and it was just somebody called the studio and said, "Oh, we're done," right in the middle of the session. But Skybound, Robert Kirkman's company, this was in season 4. It looked like this final season wasn't going to get done, but Robert Kirkman and Skybound picked up the ball and finished it. Thankfully.
Thanks for that, Robert. And yeah, when that happened, like, have you recorded your lines for Lee yet? Like before or after they went under?
Oh no, I had not.
Okay.
I had not. But I ended up recording them after. Yeah.
Perfect. And okay, and this is a spoiler alert for anyone who has not played season 1 yet. So this is your spoiler alert warning.
Well, it's 10 years. This is not a spoiler alert. Where have you been? Jesus.
Living on a rock. But yeah, so did you know Lee was going to die at the end? Did they tell you this, or was this a surprise to you?
I did find out. I think we were recording. The 3rd episode, and they told me, and my first reaction was not a good one. I mean, I didn't blow up or cuss anybody out or anything, but I was like, damn, they gonna kill me off. And it's something about my career, they like to kill off my characters. I don't know why, but all my characters seem to get killed off. But I was like, damn, I was loving this. Why are they gonna kill me off? People love this character. But once we recorded that final scene of Lee and Clementine, I knew how powerful it was. I was supposed to be crying as I'm saying goodbye to her, and I just expected that I would, be an actor and fake the funk, but those were real tears. I really was crying, but we just went with it. Someplace they've got that on video, and it was such a powerful scene that it made other people cry. I bet you cried. I
did, 100%. No, I was in tears, man. To this day, I cannot play that scene and not cry. The acting, the writing is just so powerful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Often when I'm at a convention and I ask, so did you cry? Yeah, I cried. Big burly 6'8". Yeah, I cried, man. Golly, you made me cry. I said, yeah, well, I did my job.
Funny story about that, because I was watching someone stream the ending of that, and he was dude bro, if you will, where he doesn't want to show any emotion on screen, and he's watching that scene like this, and he went and wore glasses just to cover his eyes from crying, because he was legit crying. He didn't want to show it, and then he like.
What? He still cried though, didn't he?
Yes, he did. It's just the writing, the acting you and Clementine did is just the best, in my opinion, and that's why we love you, Dave.
Yeah, the stars really aligned on that. And people often ask, well, what character would you like to play now? Well, I couldn't have answered that before playing Lee Everett. I'd already been a lot of famous characters and a lot of the properties that are out there. But I still think one of the reasons he's my favorite character is because I was the first one to do him. And of course, since they killed him off, he won't be there again. But I really like the idea that I got to create this character, that I wasn't copying anybody else. I wasn't going to be influenced by somebody else's portrayal, that this came whole cloth from the writers and me. So when I answer that question now, I would like to have another character that I could create, another lead character in a game that hasn't been seen before, that can touch the hearts of a huge audience and impact people.
And the day that happens, Dave, I'll be the first one in line to buy that game. Believe me.
Well, there you go.
And yeah, so my next question is, what do you think it is about Lee Everett that made everyone fall so much in love with him? What do you think?
Well, I like to think the fact that we all have done something at some point in our lives that we regret. I know I have, and we don't always talk about the dirt we did, that the mistakes we made, the people we hurt, even if you didn't mean to hurt them. But sometimes we all feel like we need redemption. And here was a man who thought his life was over. The zombie apocalypse freed him. And his redemption was to take care of this little girl, was to make sure that she was going to be okay. I think for him, although it was never stated out loud, I think for him, that was the raison d'etre, to cling so hard to the well-being of Clementine.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty powerful answer. Thank you. And how has the success of The Walking Dead changed your career? How was everyone and their mom coming to you and begging you to lend your voice onto their game or show?
Well, I don't think anybody begged, but they did pay me. No, I begging, no. I would say that much like a character actor that you see in a lot of movies or television shows, but you don't know their name, you like them. Oh yeah, there's that. There she is again, or there he is again. Oh yeah, I like that guy. But you don't know their name. Well, suddenly I became BAFTA-nominated Dave Fennoy, award-winning voice actor Dave Fennoy. And that put my name out there a little more. And you have to realize that 2012 was a turning point for video games for a number of reasons. One, the game industry finally was hitting doing narrative games coupled with first-person shooters, telling stories, mixing the two together. And the industry was growing in terms of finances, how much money they were making, how many gamers they were making, expanding across all the platforms. So now you've got little Game Boys, you've got apps on your phones, you've got consoles. All this is growing by leaps and bounds at the same time. The number of games that were produced in 2012 has quadrupled here in 2022. It's a worldwide business. So the Walking Dead game was pivotal in that growth and change.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm happy that happened to you, Dave. And whenever I play a game, it's to a point now where I played season 1 and hell, the whole season so much to where I recognize your voice almost immediately. Like when I'm playing, when I play Spider-Man on the PS4, I'm like, is that Dave I'm hearing? The Howard.
Yeah, Howard the Pigeon guy.
I was just like, that has to be Dave. And sure enough, I go to Facebook and you're like, by the way, guys, I might be in a game. Wink, wink. And I'm like, I knew it. Because I recognize your voice so well.
Well, I'm in a lot of them, and some of them you may not recognize my voice. They're not always. Sometimes it's accents. Sometimes they're older. Sometimes they're younger. Sometimes they're good guys. Sometimes they're bad guys.
Okay. And how excited were you when you got the call? They're like, hey, we like you to come back for Lee in season 2 and season 4. Were you like, yes? Immediately?
Yeah, I was. Just any chance to play Lee Everett again is like a good day for me. It's like visiting an old friend that you haven't seen, and in this case, an old friend that's dead. So I get to bring him back to life, if only in the dreams of Clementine.
Gotcha. And do you have a favorite line as Lee?
Clementine, don't trust nobody. Cut your hair.
That is just, I got goosebumps now. And what would you say is do you have any crazy fan experiences? Like meeting fans?
Yeah. I have crazy fan experiences. Not that crazy. I haven't been stalked. I got more stalkers when I was on the radio.
Oof.
But I remember Melissa and I were at a convention together, and when we're at a convention together, they like to put us at tables next to one another or at the same table, which makes just a lot of sense. Lee Everett and Clementine together.
Yeah.
And there was this young lady, she maybe 18, maybe 20, pretty young girl, in a cute little dress, and she was just, oh, can I get your order? Can I take a picture with you too? And we, oh yeah, come on, run down behind. And you stand in between us. And we put our arms around her, and she was shaking.
Aww.
She was just shaking. She was so affected. And it's a little bit of what celebrity is. A lot of times people put you on a pedestal that maybe you don't really deserve. And I like to tell people all the time, I have this with students sometimes because I teach voice acting. Students who are also fans. And I'm glad to be working with it, but I'm kind of fanning out and like, look, I got a cool job, but I'm a regular guy. Let's let go of that. And one other thing on that, if you're fanning out too much, the person you're fanning out about, although on one hand we like the fact that you like our work, on the other hand you're taking away a little of our humanity. We're still people.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, our shit stinks. Don't be too overcome about celebrity. They're just people like you who happen to be better known than you, and maybe deservedly and maybe not. But they're still human beings. They still have the same frailties that you have. I still have the same frailties you have.
Mm-hmm. If I
None of
tickle
us
you,
are perfect.
if I tickle you, you laugh. If I cut you, you bleed like everybody else.
Well, I'm not that ticklish anymore, but if you cut me, I do bleed.
Gotcha. Now, going back to the fans, I'm sure you've had lots of fans tell you how much the game has impacted them. But is there a story a fan told you that just really touched you deep down?
Yeah, there was a little boy. Was autistic, and he and his mother came to a convention, and his name was Ethan. And I've lost track of him since his email doesn't work anymore. But His mother came and I signed autographs and talked with him, and his mother said, "You know what? He sometimes has episodes where he's just, screaming and hollering, and there are autistic people that happens to." And she said the only thing that'll calm him down is your voice as Lee Everett.
Aww.
So for a number of years, I was sending the emails. I'd record a little something and send it to him, and I've lost track of them now. I don't know where they are. At some point, those emails don't work, or at least they didn't respond anymore. But that touched me. I have a sister who's a doctor. I used to tease her, "Oh, you're doing the important work. I'm just having fun." But once I started going to conventions and meeting people, you begin to realize sometimes that the work you're doing, that is your passion, is your fun, actually touches people in ways you could not have imagined.
Amen to that. Yeah, thank you again for that, Dave. And I want to talk about your more recent projects now. Do you have like a favorite experience out of all the games you voiced recently? Like out of all of them, which one did you enjoy working on the most?
Well, I enjoyed being Zaravari on Marvel's Avengers: War for Wakanda.
Nice.
That I had to do with a South African or Zulu accent. That was a whole lot of fun. I've got some things coming out, but of course, I've signed some NDAs, and if I tell you, then I gotta kill you.
Exactly.
You got a big audience. I'd have to kill a whole lot of people.
And do you have like when you're not voice acting, what do you like to do for fun?
Well, I used to play a lot of tennis. I haven't played as much in the last few years. But my father was a veterinarian. I have always loved dogs. So my wife and I are dog lovers, and we walk our dogs and play with our dogs. I love to play backgammon. I know that's supposed to have gone out in the 70s, but it's been around for thousands of years, so there.
Yes.
Love playing backgammon. And talking to people. Few things in life are better than a good conversation with somebody who thinks and doesn't think they know it all.
Well, yeah, I like to talk also, so this works out perfectly. And have you ever gotten recognized in public? Like, let's say you're going shopping or at a gas station. Are you like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Dave"? Has that ever happened?
Well, they usually don't do that. They're usually trying to be a little more stealth about it. But yeah. And if I'm with my wife, she'll notice. Oftentimes I'll be in a store and there'll be a young man that's, giving me excellent service. And I'm just thinking, wow, they've really trained the staff in here well. They're so helpful. And then I'll find out later on before I leave, you're Dave Fennoy, right? Can I get your autograph? Can I take a picture with you? Or my wife will see people in the back. Yeah, I think that's him. Oh, look at this Dave Fennoy, that's him. Just like, oh, you want to take a picture with him? Come on, he'll take a picture with you. So that happens from time to time. Fortunately, as a voice actor, we don't get as hounded as, say, TV and movie stars.
Gotcha. Now we're
But we don't make that money either.
well, somebody has to change that. But we're getting close to the end of the interview. So one of my last questions for you is, what is your advice for anyone out there that wants to get into voice acting? Like me included, I would love to get into voice acting. So what advice would you give me to us out there?
Well, one, concentrate on that second word of that title, acting.
Acting.
You got to learn to be an actor. Take some classes. It's not about the quality of your voice. We notice that. We hear it. But think about the landscape of voices that you hear on television, in the movies, on cartoons, in video games. There's every kind of voice, including yours, whatever it is. So don't think because your voice isn't my voice that you don't have a career, or that everybody has something special about them. Find what that special thing is and let those characters speak through you. Learn to act. coming through your voice.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that because as a teacher, listening to my voice, what kind of character would you say would suit this voice?
That's a setup for me to be just evil. Uh, no, I could hear you as you sound like the young sidekick. You sound like the scientist. You could play bad guys as well. You sound like any enthusiastic young person. You could be the athlete. You could be the nerd. There's a lot of range there.
Okay. And there's actually a favor I like to ask of you, Dave, before we wrap this whole thing up. May I please speak to Lee?
You want to talk to Lee?
Oh, yes.
Oh, Lee doesn't talk to a lot of people, but since you're here.
Okay, Lee, I wanted to just say thank you, Lee. It's your experience with Clementine and that whole journey you went with her is one of the best experiences I've had as a human being on this planet. You've inspired many people around the world, and we all love you. And I think I speak for everybody when I say thank you. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us, Lee.
Wow. Well, wait, no, that was Dave again. Well, you're welcome, man. Mo chocolate. That's cool. And if you've seen Clementine, let her know I'm still looking for her.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Fennoy here. Trying not to fanboy, but thank you. That is my 25-year-old Mo is screaming right now. But we're gonna wrap things up with our fan favorite segment of the show called Top 10 Questions on Motown Downtown. Where Dave, are you familiar with Inside the Actors Studio?
I know what it is. I have not watched it a lot.
Basically, at the very end of the show, they ask the guests 10 questions. And I'm going to ask you those 10 questions. So, are you ready?
No, but let's go anyway.
My first question is, what is your favorite word?
Wow, please.
What is your least favorite word?
No.
What makes you happy?
Waking up every morning.
What makes you upset?
Injustice in the world.
What sound or noise do you love?
Make my funk the P-funk, baby.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Sorry to say, country western fans, but that twang.
Dave Fennoy, what is your favorite curse word?
Motherfucker.
Nice. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
You know, if I wasn't doing this, I'd want to be a history professor at a college somewhere.
What profession would you not like to attempt?
Let's see, ditch digger?
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome, Dave Fennoy. Good life and come, meet my son Jesus. A lot of angels would like to get your autograph.
Thank you once again, Dave, for coming out here, man. Love you to death. Any departing words for the audience before we go?
Thank you so much. If you want to get in touch with me, Twitter @Dave Fennoy. Interested in being a voice actor, you can visit my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. On Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, I do a thing for voice actors, Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. I bring on other voice actors and we talk about the business. Sometimes it's about equipment, sometimes, well, all things voiceover. That's every Wednesday except the one coming up because I'll be at a convention in Atlanta. And if you're interested in private lessons, click on davefennoy.com, my website, and click the Study VO tab at the top and book yourself.
And thank you all again for joining us tonight. You all have a fantastic weekend. Thank you again, Dave, and y'all have a fantastic night. Bye-bye.
All right.